Welcome to the fifth episode of Caregiver Voices. Today we will talk about caregiver and self-care. What does self-care mean to you? And also identifying tips or approaches to taking care of yourself. And I would start off with maybe a story of my personal experience and even when I got to know what self-care means. So as I've illustrated before, most of the lessons I've learned or most of the things that I've adopted were mainly found from the therapy room. And I remember in one of the sessions, the doctor asked me, Dolly, when was the last time you were happy? And I couldn't even think or point to a time when I was happy, at least over the past maybe 3 years of dealing with the whole situation. And I tried thinking very critically, what does it mean to be happy? As in, I even asked her, what do you mean when you ask when you are happy? And she just elaborated and said, when was the last time you were lighthearted, you were yourself, or describe who Dolly was before the accident. And I just started explaining. Dolly was fun, Dolly was amazing, Dolly was outgoing, Dolly was this really, really laughy person all the time. She'd just laugh at everything. And she was like, is that who you are today? And I'm just, I couldn't just say yes. And I was just like, no, of course not. Right now I cry all the time. I cry over small things. I even cry when someone tells me something, I don't know, something, something that is unrelated to whatever the subject matter is. And she was like, then how do we find a way for you to bring that Dolly back? How do you relieve the person that you were so that you do not lose very important aspects of yourself? How do you get back to being happy? How do you get back to being that free spirit? And she was like, name one thing that you really enjoyed doing during that time. And I was like, I just enjoyed hanging out with my friends quite a bit. I enjoyed any time we would just go out and take a walk. So when I was in campus, we'd take walks to a close by bridge, or we'd go with my classmates to excursions and visiting waterfalls and visiting things like that. And I was just like, those were moments when I was happy and excited about life and what it had to offer. And she was like, then get back to doing that. And my question to her was, how do I do that without feeling guilty, without feeling like I'm leaving my sister behind or I'm not being inclusive of her? How do I just, separate the feeling that I need to take care of myself versus I need to be there for my sister? And she gave me this one statement, and this has been repeated also by my friend once in a while. It's, you can never pour from an empty cup, Dolly. You have to fill your cup before you go and pour to other people. And in that moment, it was just like, how do you find ways to recharge? So how do you fill up the battery of your life before you go and now drain it as you give the care to those around you? And I don't know, yes, it did make sense, but then I was just like, how do I practically make it happen? So that moment, I remember I just went home and I had a conversation with my sister. I was like, hey, Brenda, I really would love to be going out once in a while. I'd really love to be doing XYZ. How do you feel about that? And she was like, it's fine, you can do it, just as long as we find a common ground so that I'm also not home alone. And it seemed like a reasonable ask for sure. So, and for me, the moment of freedom came when we decided, and this is the working mechanism that really has survived the test of time. It's 2 Sundays of every month you'll keep to yourself. So my weekends are the first and the third weekend of every month. Then the second and fourth Sunday of every month, I will do things or activities that are wheelchair friendly and are more inclusive of her. So whenever I have my Sundays to myself, I'll make sure I do exciting things and non-wheelchair friendly activities without even feeling guilty. I'll be like, I'll go hike a mountain, I'll go do whatever I need to do just to make sure that I am happy, to feed my soul and feed my heart with things that give me energy. And the other thing that I really suffered from was finding sleep or, getting exhausted to the point that I have nothing else in my head. So I got that from hiking. Like when I'm hiking, I can think of nothing else. Like possibly nothing else can come in my head. I'll just be thinking of the next step or how do I get to the peak. And when I start walking, I will never stop walking until I get to the top and back to the bottom. If it's a hill or if it's just a flat trail, until I get to the end and then back. And in those moments, the thing that keeps me pushing is do this, if not for yourself, then for your sister. And in that moment, I just made my goal of I have to make sure I hike once every month, if possible. And the other thing that fed into that was basketball. So I really, really enjoy basketball. And I will do it the third weekend or the third Sunday of every month. So the first Sunday would be my hike, and then the third Sunday would be basketball. And these two things like really, really give me all the energy that I need. So with basketball, for me, it just reminds me how things flip, like how things change. You might think you're leading this quarter of the game, and then the next quarter something else just happens and you're lagging. So I think for me it just instills the discipline that nothing is ever constant and things are ever changing, and that is why I really go and enjoy. So for you to make sure that you remain on the lead, then it's matter of skill and experience, and sometimes just having the best people on your team. And I say this with love because I really, really enjoy the people I play with. But then if you have really, really nice, a strong team that is always supporting you, then for sure you're gonna win the game. And no matter how many quarters you have or whenever you feel you're losing, then tables always turn. So these are the two things that give me energy, and it takes a while to actually find out. But then for me, these are the two things that also brought back who I was before the accident. When I was in campus, I would do both of these things, and every time I left a game, I would feel so relieved. I would feel exhausted enough to just switch off and sleep, and not wander or stay awake until 2 a.m. before getting some sleep. So my advice to you, dear caregiver, is find things that make you happy. Find things that bring out the little person that was in you. I was 23 when the accident happened. And I don't know, being young, you never know how dark it could get. Or we always say adulting is hard, but then sometimes things get you even before you get to being an adult, and it's learning how to adapt and learning to bring out the child that was in you, that keeps you happy and that keeps you energized all the time. So I'll finish this with saying, feel the battery in you, find ways to care for yourself, and that way you'll have enough to pour out. And you'll pour it out more gratefully because you know you'll always find more to fill up your battery. So till next time, find ways to take care of yourself, and if you have interesting ideas, we'll be happy to hear them. Cheers, bye, thank you.